So I have a topic to discuss. Over the Canadian Thanksgiving weekend, which was 2 weeks ago now, I decided that I was going to rewatch the show Deadly Class. Because I've been doing a couple like shorts videos lately of spooky shows to watch during the spooky season, and I was thinking of making another one. So I was looking at my list of shows that I've watched throughout the years to see like which ones would fit the bill. And I saw Deadly Class and I was like, oh my god, I haven't watched this in years, like let me do a rewatch because I have nothing better to do. And it just brought up like a topic that I've been thinking about for a while, which is why shows with like unique or like different concepts get canceled so frequently. And I feel like I figured out why, and I believe I figured out how we can fix that. That's a bold statement, and I don't know if this video is going to live up to that. Probably not, but I still want to discuss. So let me talk to you.
Let me talk to you.
Okay, so I'm going to give you the synopsis of Deadly Class so that you know what we're working with here. Set in the late 80s, Marcus is a homeless teenager living on the streets of San Francisco after surviving a tragedy at his orphanage that killed dozens of children. As the lone survivor, he is blamed for it and labeled a murderer. While avoiding the cops, he is approached by Saya and prompted to attend King's Dominion, a secret boarding school where the kids of the world's most notorious crime families are trained to be assassins to better aid in their family's business. They are trained in the lethal arts of killing, strategy, and survival. Inside, Marcus has to survive brutal training, deadly classmates, violent social cliques, and his own moral code. Sorry for reading off my notes, but I have a lot to talk about, and I want to make sure that I put effort into the notes, okay? Anyway, so that's like my little synopsis on the show. So it's pretty interesting. Like, yeah, the only students that attend there are students of notorious crime families, or some of the students, which they call like rats. They're handpicked because there's potential in them to become really great assassins, even if they're not from notorious crime families. That being said, this is a live adaptation of a graphic novel or comic book by the same name, Deadly Class, created by Rick Remender and Wesley Craig. I hope I said their names good. I'm bad with pronouncing names. And it was first published in 2014. Now, the comic was very praised for its dark tone and gritty art style and strong characterization, as well as the sharp punk and counterculture aesthetics, which I will definitely say the show seems, in my opinion anyway, seems to very much live up to that. The aesthetics of the show are fantastic. So the Syfy network ordered the TV adaptation, and then it was developed and exec produced by Rick Remender and Miles Orion Felsett, I think that's how you say his name. Other producers included big names like Joe and Anthony Russo, who are most known for their work within the Marvel universe. Like, imagine you write a graphic novel or whatever in 2014, okay? And then a couple years later, in 2019, a network is like, yeah, we want to turn this into a TV series. That's like a short window, 2014, and then you get like a whole TV adaptation of your comic in 2019. That's really fast. Is it not? I don't know, but I feel like that's really quick. I think my equivalent would be like writing a webtoon and then having that webtoon turn into a kdrama within like a couple of years. That would be a dream come true. So I can only imagine. Plus, Rick Remender, who is one of the creators of the comic, he is, exec producing and developing the show. That's amazing. I've never read the Deadly Class comics, but it seems to me that the casting for this show was just spot on. I would say everybody did amazing in their roles. So I'm going to list off some of the main cast here. Might butcher some names. I'll do my best. Benjamin Wadsworth, and he plays the main character Marcus. And this seems to have been his like breakout role, and he does such an incredible job in this role, and you know, bringing the character to life and stuff, like really fantastic. And then of course we have Benedict Wong, who is probably best known for his work within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So that's like a really big name to have in this show. And then we have Lana Condor, who is probably best known for her work on all the To All the Boys I Loved Before movies. Yeah. Another big name at the time, right? Because I don't even know when the first one of those movies came out, because I think there's like 2 or 3 of them, right? And then they have like a spin-off, I think, right? Exo Kitty or whatever it's called. Anyway, my point is that's another pretty big name to have in this. Not to say that the other people who may not be as well known aren't fantastic, because they are, like Maria Gabriela de Faria. Very pretty name for a very beautiful girl. She's gorgeous and does a fantastic job in her role. Michael Duvall, Luke Tennies, and Liam James are a few other names. They all do a fantastic job. Now, I say all that to say that even with such a stacked cast, 2 of which cast members are pretty well known at the time, especially Benedict Wong, this show was still not saved from being cancelled. And I'm going to tell you how it got canned right now. Despite critics really liking this series, the viewership was low. And with the high production costs, even though they shot in Vancouver, they just couldn't justify doing another season. I say that because productions tend to shoot in Canada, even though like this series is taking place in San Francisco. They shot in Vancouver because it's cheaper, you know? So a lot of TV shows or movies will shoot like in Toronto or Vancouver, if it's like a city setting or whatever. Another reason was because of the complicated joint production. So this was interesting to me. Now, even though the Syfy network is the one that aired Deadly Class, they don't have ownership rights. Sony Pictures does, which means Syfy had to like pay a licensing fee to air the series. And they didn't get all the profits from streaming or merchandise or international sales. And a network is a lot more likely to renew a show if they own it. And since Syfy didn't, they had a lot less financial incentive to keep it alive, which makes sense because it's like, if I'm not making any profit from this, and it's like at that point it's a passion project, which would be great, but obviously these companies are trying to make money. Yeah. So after the initial airing of Deadly Class, the streaming rights were licensed out to other platforms. So it's sort of like when, I don't know, what's a show people care about? Like The Office. Like maybe 1 month or for a few months Netflix has it, and then it gets shipped off to Prime, and then it gets shipped off to Peacock. You know what I mean? So a show won't stay in one place for long when it gets put on streaming, if it's not a show from that streaming platform. Which means Syfy couldn't benefit from any online streaming traffic or new viewership discovery, which is a huge problem since the show's target market was like a younger audience, and younger people typically, you know, watch their shows primarily through streaming, which I can definitely agree with, because this happens to me all the time where I will see like a clip of a show that seems really interesting, like on TikTok, for example, and then I go look it up, and then I realize it's from 5 years ago or 10 years ago or something, and it only has 1 season because it got canceled. And so now your viewership on that show doesn't even matter because the show was already canceled, or it's an old show, so it's not gonna benefit the series to come back, typically. After the show was canceled in June of 2019, the producers tried to shop it out to like other networks to pick up, but they were unsuccessful. So it was confirmed that there would be no second season, which really sucks because the first season ends off on a cliffhanger. Don't you hate it when that happens? I will say, like, you should still watch the show, and the cliffhanger that it ends off on is not really of the main story of the first season. It's almost a cliffhanger that would lead into a new story in the second season, so it's less heartbreaking. I say all that to say, I think it's unfortunate that in North America, like, shows with unique or interesting concepts or themes, they just can't seem to get past the first season. Especially if like the show doesn't do well within the first week, which we see often. Like, for example, on Netflix, they'll like add a new show and then it'll kind of be like ranked like number 1, number 2, number 3, like within your country and stuff, which sort of tells you how it's doing numbers wise. And if it doesn't do well numbers wise, it gets trashed and like left on cliffhangers, never to be brought back again in most circumstances. Some very unique circumstances a show will be brought back. It's been done before, but I would say generally it's pretty rare. And it sucks. Within the past like couple of years especially, I believe that a big part of the canceling of these shows is actually a lack of marketing. Hear me out. I've heard like a few people on TikTok like briefly kind of mention this and stuff, so I know I'm not alone in this thinking. However, I am going off my own experience. And it's not just with like niche shows that might not fit everybody's palette, it's with like really popular series as well. I have a very recent, very relevant example of this. Gen V Season 2. It just came out like, well, not just, but it came out like a couple of weeks ago at this point. And when I say I had no clue that the new season had come out until the literal day that it came out, because I saw some random person on my For You page like briefly mention that the new season was out, and that was the day before it came out. But I saw the video on the day that it came out. Are you following? Are you following? And why this is insane to me is I saw no, like, my main social media platform that I like to entertain myself on is TikTok. And usually you'll get like little ads for it because, you know, all these, like Prime has an account on TikTok, so they'll like put little previews of their shows and stuff. So tell me how I had no clue that the new season had even come out, or that it was even going to come out. I heard nothing about it. I heard no one talking about it or anything. And the way my algorithm is, I would have heard if a lot of people were discussing it before the show had come out. And I didn't. On top of that, you're probably like, okay, well, that's your algorithm, blah, blah, blah. Sure, we can say that. But the thing that really took the cake for me is I literally have Amazon Prime. I literally have it, and I saw no promotion for it until the day that it came out. How is that possible? I have your platform, and I didn't know that a show that is from your platform was out.
The first season of Gen V released 2 years ago and was a home run for Prime Video. It had such high viewership, it was renewed for a second season in the middle of the first season. 2 years later, with the second season being even better than the first season, the internet is shocked that the viewership completely disappeared, where majority of fans didn't even know the second season premiered yet.
I mean, after the show, you know, the second season started, then I started to see some stuff on TikTok of like clips of the cast doing interviews and cooking and whatever else they were doing. But I'm like, didn't it used to be you had marketing leading up to the release of your show and not after the fact? Now, I understand that Gen V is a popular show, but, you know, so they maybe feel the need or don't feel the need to do as much marketing. However, I still think it's important. And like, I've been seeing promotions for Stranger Things for weeks now, and Stranger Things isn't supposed to come out until like November, I think. And I've been seeing it for like weeks and weeks and weeks. So that's how you market. And Stranger Things is a very established show. I mean, it first came out in what, like 2016? Question mark? 2015, 2016? So, you know, it's a show that's very established and has a huge fan base, despite it taking so damn long to complete the series. And they don't have to do as much marketing, you know what I mean? They could have just like dropped something 2 weeks before the show came out and people would be there to watch. But with newer shows that are not established and they're brand new out the box, you definitely need to be doing marketing leading up to the release, not after the fact, leading up to the release, because that's how you're going to get those numbers within the first week, which is what keeps shows alive for another season. Now, saying all that, I'm thinking back, and I mean, Deadly Class came out in 2019, so I might not be remembering correctly, because I mean, that was a long time ago, so I don't remember if I saw a lot of promotion for the show or not prior to its release, but nowadays it seems movies, shows, etc., they really rely on established actors to promote their series, which we see all the time because I've heard people talk about this on TikTok and it makes me laugh because it's so true. The idea of floating head posters. Why is every single movie poster like floating head of actors? It's like Brad Pitt's head floating. It's like, what is this? This is not a movie poster, and it's definitely not something I want to put up on my wall. I don't know if people still put posters up on their wall, like the younger generation, but you know, in theory, would you want to put that up on your wall? Probably not. And it's also just like not unique. Like every single movie poster is just floating heads of big name actors so that you know who's in the movie. So you're like, oh, I'm a fan of Brad Pitt, so I'm gonna go watch this movie because it clearly has Brad Pitt in it. Which really sucks too, because then that doesn't give, you know, up and coming actors a chance to even be seen. Also, because of the amount of streaming platforms that exist nowadays, which is like every single network has their own streaming platform, which I think is ridiculous. I liked it when there was like 2 streaming platforms at the most, and now it's just out of hand. I fear a lot of them just believe that they can, you know, upload their show onto their platform and just have it like front page banner type situation, and that's enough marketing for this new show that they're putting out. But it's not, because not everybody has your platform. Also, when it comes to shows with like more unique, more niche concepts, like you must market it to find the audience that will actually watch this show. Because, you know, not everybody's into that. Like, I think Stranger Things, they got lucky back in the day with that one, because I do think it is a niche concept that not everybody, like, it's sci-fi, not everybody likes sci-fi, not everybody might like the concept of it's set in the 80s with these kids and blah blah blah. Like, for example, like my mom, she doesn't watch stuff like that. Like, she doesn't like sci-fi, she doesn't watch things like Stranger Things at all. And we got her to watch that show back in the day and she loved it. I don't know if it was the nostalgia from the 80s or like what, but she really enjoyed it. So, you know, I think Stranger Things definitely got lucky with that. I think a lot of it had to do with the 80s nostalgia. But not every niche show is going to get lucky right off the bat. You need to promote it so that you can find that niche audience that likes watching, you know, fantasy or sci-fi or whatever. Now, of course, I'm biased because I am a binge watcher, I'm a lover of TV and movies, and like, that's all I live for pretty much, so I am biased when I say that I would like these more niche, interesting like concepts for shows to kind of have more of a fighting chance. And I think companies need to, look, I'm not like, I don't work in production or in cinema or anything like that, so I'm like a nobody. Okay, I'm just some girl with an opinion. So I don't know how all these things work, okay? I don't know the inner and outer workings of it all, so what I am saying, like, maybe there's a really good explanation for, and I just obviously don't know about it. But I do think, like, some of these companies need to put aside a little bit more money for marketing, alright? And a little less when it comes to the making of a show, because you don't really, some shows and movies just have these incredibly large budgets for like no reason. We've seen it time and time again, especially in cinema, where like the CGI is still bad even though this movie cost millions and millions and millions of dollars to make, and you're just like, where did it go? Like, where did all the money go? Because this CGI looks worse than like Pirates of the Caribbean CGI, and that came out like years and years and years ago. Like, how is that possible? You know what I'm saying? So there are these 2 Amazon Prime shows that I discovered like, what, last year? Or early this year or like last year. And I'm so upset because they were so good, like right up my alley, unique concept in my opinion, and that is Utopia and The Power. Now, I might have seen a little bit of marketing for The Power, but not enough to make me end up watching it like when it first came out, which was in 2023. And these shows, like, they just have really interesting concepts. I thought they were done very beautifully. And I was just like, wait, are they never coming back? Like, are they canceled? Like, are we getting another season anytime soon or what? Like, what is happening? Or are these shows just like kind of dead in the air now? And it makes me upset, especially with a, company like Amazon, where I know they have the funds. You know what I mean? Like, they have at least a little bit of extra money somewhere for marketing. So I'm like, what's happening? Where is the marketing for your shows? Especially when you find the time to, market and produce another season of The Summer I Turned Pretty, which is not a good show. I've watched it, okay? I love the mess of the show, okay? I love the discourse online about it and everything, but it is just not a good show. And it's definitely not a show with a unique or interesting concept. How many times have we seen a love triangle? Honestly, how many times have you seen a love triangle where it's between two brothers? Like, even that, okay, is not like new or different. And apparently it's getting a movie, I hear, and I'm like, what? Who asked for The Summer I Turned Pretty, the movie? Who needs that? I'm like, isn't the show over? Isn't it done? I'm like, what more can we discuss about this show, truly? That being said, dozens of good shows die young because companies just can't justify the costs versus the viewership. And don't get me wrong, I understand that viewers are also to blame. It's not only on the companies making the shows. People have to be watching them as well. I get it. And I get that, everybody loves a basic mess that they can talk about, discuss online, like The Summer I Turned Pretty. However, I want shows to watch that have something new to give, something new to say, something new to cling on to. And so I'm gonna list a few shows and give like a really quick short synopsis on all of them that I think have interesting, unique ideas, and I think these shows should be brought back. So if you want to skip over this, I'll like put a timestamp. Starting off with Utopia from 2020. So, a group of comic book fans discover that a conspiracy theory hidden within the mysterious graphic novel are terrifyingly real, pulling them into a deadly web of bioterrorism and a government secret. Come on, does that not sound intriguing? I loved this show, and I thought it was a really unique concept. Done beautifully, filmed beautifully, acted beautifully. And I assume it's not coming back because it was made in 2020. Next, The Power from 2023. When teenage girls across the world suddenly develop the ability to generate electricity from their bodies, society is in an uproar, both literally and politically, as the power shifts into the hands of women. Like, hello? Hello? Is that not cool? Is that like not a cool idea? Women suddenly all at an alarming rate develop electricity powers, which now puts them at the top of the food chain. Boom. And to go off the superpower thing, the next one is Supercell from 2024. This one was fantastic also. So, ordinary people in South London suddenly manifest superpowers. But when their fates intertwine, they discover their abilities are tied to a mysterious and dangerous future. Now, this one is also very interesting because it's people who have, it's something related to sickle cell anemia, which is like a blood condition that primarily affects Black people. And so all the people in the show who get superpowers are of Black origins, and it is so interesting. I really hope this one gets another season at some point because it really is good. And it only came out last year, so there's still hope. Next, Class of '07 from 2023. A high school reunion turns apocalyptic when a massive flood traps a group of women on their mountaintop campus, forcing them to survive both the end of the world and each other. This one was hilarious, and I don't understand how there's not another season, because it really is funny. I mean, imagine it. Like, you go to a high school reunion that you don't even want to be at, where a whole bunch of these posh girls that hated you in high school still hate you now, and it's still very much like high school politics, even though you're all grown. And then suddenly, like, a flood happens, like a biblical level flood happens, and you're now trapped on, like, what is now a tiny island with a whole bunch of these girls that you didn't even like in high school. It was entertaining. I suggest you watch it. Harlan Coben's Shelter from 2023. After his father's sudden death, a teen's new life in a quiet suburb unravels into a dark labyrinth of students' disappearances, long-buried secrets, and a conspiracy that connects generations. This one is a mystery show, and it is done beautifully in my opinion. I've just like the pacing and the like breadcrumbs that you are left for figuring out the mystery is so good. And also the main characters are like a trio of high school friends that are very unlikely friends. Like, they're all very weird, and you're kind of looking at them like, how do they make sense as a friend group? But they do, and it's done so well, especially because as you get the puzzle pieces, you're trying to put them together, but nothing adds up still. So when it's revealed in the end what's really going on, you're just like, oh my god, because you would have never thought of it. Moving on. The Brother's Son from 2024. When a Taipei gangster is murdered, his two sons, one a hardened assassin, and the other one a clueless LA college kid, must team up to protect their family from the violent criminal underworld. This one was so fun, and I cannot believe they were not renewed for another season. Like, who doesn't like fighting? It's like action, it's funny, it's so good. I'm like, what's wrong with everybody? The acting's good, lots of first time actors, like it was giving breakout role for some people. Because you have one brother who is like deep in the family business, and then you have the other one that has no clue about the family business at all, and he's an idiot. It was fantastic, and I was really upset that they didn't get renewed for another season. Okay, next. The Society from 2019. This one's a Netflix show, I believe. A group of teens find themselves mysteriously transported to a version of their town with no adults, forcing them to build their own society while uncovering the dark truth behind their isolation. This one, chef's kiss. I kind of love an apocalyptic show where like teenagers are kind of left alone to figure out, you know, how to survive on their own. There's just something about it, you know, there's just something about it that gets me every time, because I always wonder like, would I be able to survive this? Anyway, this one was really good. I love the mystery aspect to it, because it's like literally all the adults just disappear and no one knows how, why. They can't even like leave the town. It's very interesting, and I think it actually has 2 seasons, but then it got canceled, so you never actually find out what is going on. I hate when that happens. Next, The Bastard Son and the Devil Himself from 2022. The illegitimate son of the world's most dangerous witch must navigate a brutal magical war between rival covens while fighting a dark power growing inside him. This show, I rewatched it for the spooky season. It is so good. And I'm like, where are the book talk girlies that love fantasy? Because this is the show for you. I love the magic, like, aspect, the magic system, how it all works. It's very interesting because, like, through your family's bloodline, when you hit, I think 16 or 15 or something like that, you get your first blood, which means, like, through your family's blood, you get a power. And it's usually based on, like, whatever your parents' powers are. But it's not always. So then you get a unique power, and now you're kind of, like, in the witch coven, and it's And then of course you have like the bad witches and the good witches, but the good witches, we're not sure if they're actually good, and the bad witches, we're not even sure if they're actually bad, because this war has gone on for so long that like no one even knows anymore. And then this high school kid is just thrown into the middle because he has some destiny that he's supposedly going to fulfill just because of who his father is. So everybody thinks that he's gonna turn evil one day, and he's just like, I'm just here living, or trying to live. It's just so good. It's so good. And they canceled it. Back to the topic at hand. Now, I believe the cancellation of television shows is widely a North American issue. North America, especially like the US, the TV market and like streaming platforms, they kind of operate under this like commercial profit maximizing type of model. Networks air dozens of TV shows each year, hoping that one of them will catch and become a hit, like Stranger Things, for example. But if the show doesn't immediately draw a large audience, they can it because advertisers lose interest. And the success of a TV show can also be measured not just through like viewership numbers, but also the amount of buzz that it's getting, you know, on social media or in the tabloids or whatever. Essentially, it's profit and numbers first and creativity and quality second, which sucks because that's why we get so many shitty TV shows that continue to go on to season 5, but a good TV show is ended after only one season. Now, I say it's widely a North American issue because as a very long time watcher of Asian television, like, they don't really seem to cancel shows. Let me explain. So in Asia, TV series are designed to have like a clear beginning, middle, and end, like a complete story, right? Typically within a single season. So for example, in Korea, shows are often scripted to be anywhere from like 12 to 20 episodes. Anything more than that, if it's like 30 or something, is like usually a long show for Korea. But I would say the sweet spot is like 16 episodes. So it's not a seasonal show. It's what I like to call a one and done, okay? It's like you get 16 episodes and that's it, okay? You get an entire story in that amount of time. Which means even if the ratings are low, the viewer still gets a completed story and they get closure, which is more than I can say about American shows. I say all that to say the cancellation of Asian shows is pretty rare because they were never meant to be a show that continued indefinitely like a lot of Western shows seem to strive for, which is why you get like 10 seasons of a singular show. Now in Asia, just because a show is like a one and done doesn't mean they want to let go to the fan base too quickly. So in Japan and in Thailand, they'll often, you know, they'll have a show run of like, let's say 12 or 16 episodes. And then if it does well, they might end up producing like a movie or a special episode. So for example, in Japan, there's this BL called My Beautiful Man, and it has 2 seasons and a movie. The BL Love Sea has, I don't remember how many episodes it has, like 12 maybe? Anyway, but then it has like a special episode, which is like an hour and like 20 minutes, so pretty much the length of a movie, just to sort of give the fans a little bit more, even though the initial story is wrapped up, if that makes sense. Which is really nice. I enjoy it. I don't need another season of a show that clearly finished the story, which I think is a problem with American shows, is like, the story is finished. Let's say it takes like 2 seasons for them to finish, like let's say it's like 2 seasons of 12 episodes each, right? So 24 episodes altogether to finish a single story. But then the network is like, oh, well, you know, we'll pick you up for another season. And so now they have to make up a new story, even though the initial story, which is usually quite good, is over. So now they're like fumbling to put another story together. You see it time and time again, and it's very annoying. Anyway, like I said before, I've been watching Asian dramas at this point for most of my life, and I could never figure out, like when I was younger, why I enjoyed them so much until all the Western, like American shows that I would watch, you know, they're on season 10 and they're finishing now. And that's when it hit me. I was like, oh, that's why I like Asian dramas more. Because they don't disappoint me by the end of the series. I'm looking at you, Pretty Little Liars. I'm looking at you, Game of Thrones. I'm looking at, like, they don't disappoint me in the end, okay? My Asian dramas never disappoint me unless they are a Netflix show. For whatever reason, Netflix Netflix Asian dramas disappoint me in the end because they have multiple seasons, which again is not typical for an Asian drama, and they really try and milk it for everything it's worth. So if it's a Asian drama that is like a Netflix show, it's probably gonna be disappointing in the end, just like the way American shows are. But if that's not the case, then it'll be good. I will also say, typically, I find that Asian dramas, like, they'll come out with ideas that feel fresh or new, or tropes that are, like, kind of repackaged, and they're more interesting to watch because of that, and a lot of it is because they are adaptations of comics, and I'm like, that's really fun, because think about it, like, in a story, right, in, like, a book or a comic or whatever, you can have more interesting ideas, more new concepts, like crazy things happen that you wouldn't typically think if you pitched it just directly to, you know, a networking company and be like, hey, I want to make this show, here's the crazy concept I have. They're gonna be like, that's a little bit too niche, we're not sure if that's gonna do well, so we're not gonna put the money into making it. But when you take it from a comic that has, you know, a lot of readers and people love this comic, like, they know that there's a market for it, that there's already a fan base there, so turning it into a live action, it's probably gonna do really well, right? Like Sweet Home, Hellbound, Alice in Borderland, like, they're all adaptations. That being said, I would say Japan is pretty notorious for doing live adaptations of mangas, often ones that nobody ever asked for. Often ones that should stay on the pages of a manga and should never be brought back into the real world. Because sometimes I'm like, who asked for this live adaptation? I don't think anybody did. For example, I bring this up only because I've seen people talking about Peach Girl recently on TikTok. I first watched Peach Girl, I don't even know when, like 2010 or something like that. Anyway, it's infuriating. It's not a unique concept, it's high school drama, love triangle BS. And it's very frustrating to watch, so if you want to get mad at something, watch this show. Like, if you like The Summer I Turned Pretty, yeah, watch Peach Girl, the anime. I've never read the manga and I don't plan to. I think the manga came out in like maybe the 90s, and I think the drama came out in like the early 2000s. Not the drama, the anime. But I think in like 2019 maybe, they did a live action movie of Peach Girl, and I was like, who asked for that? Who asked for that? Truly, I want to know, especially in 2019, like, and I think Makanyu is in it, which is another, like, Makanyu, what are we doing? I think Makanyu is in it, and I think he plays Shoji or Toji, whatever the guy's name is, which is great casting, like, looks-wise. Like, he looks just like the character. And the girl casting for Sai was really good, but then the other two for, I think his name is Kairi and Momo, I was like, this is not good casting. Just in my opinion, from what I saw. I didn't watch the movie, just from what I saw. Ultimately, I think North America and the West just need to be okay with ending stories, because I think that is the like issue here, is like they want these shows to go on for like 10 years straight, and it's like, babe, a singular story shouldn't be able to last 10 years, which means there has to be multiple stories, and not all those stories are going to be good. Like, I have never watched a show that has 10 seasons that got better as the show went on. It always gets worse. Not to say that, like, if there's 10 seasons of the show, it's not to say that season 7 is gonna suck. You know, it might be really good. Season 7 might be really good, but maybe season 5 really sucked. You know, maybe season 6 really sucked. Like, you get what I'm saying? It's like a show with that many seasons never gets better the more seasons there are. It only ever gets worse. And then that makes, like, there's even more pressure then when you are ready to finally end the season or to end the series. It's like more pressure to have a really good ending, but they never do. Okay, they never do. I hear people hated the ending of Supernatural. What do you call it? Walking Dead. That, I remember as the years went on, that just went downhill. A lot of people hated that, and it has a ton of spin-offs. I already mentioned, like, Pretty Little Liars, Vampire Diaries, like, all those shows, Game of Thrones, all those shows had terrible endings, you know, and it just, like, destroyed the legacy. Which, let me talk about that for a second. Like, you have these shows that people covet and really love and maybe even call groundbreaking or whatever the case may be. And then you just ruin it in the end with a horrible ending to a series. And then they think the way to fix that, you know, and keep the fan base happy while still making money off of it is to do sequels and prequels. And that's just, they're never gonna have the same appeal as the original series. Sometimes they do. Like, I think Vampire Diaries was good, and then they did a spin-off, right, the originals, which I really loved. I know some people didn't like the originals. I loved it. I thought it was great. I was like, this is a successful spin-off, right? But then you have something like Pretty Little Liars, where they had a couple spin-offs or sequels or whatever. Like, I don't remember what it was called, but they had a spin-off of Pretty Little Liars where Allison and Mona worked at some preppy boarding school, and they tried to do that, and that got canceled real quick because it was not good. And then, of course, they had Pretty Little Liars Original Sin, which we did not need. It has nothing to do with the original series and is somehow tied into the Riverdale universe. Space Ninja did a great video on that. I love his videos, and him explaining all of that is hilarious. But yeah, even like Game of Thrones, like now they're having all these spin-offs and prequels and sequels, and it's like, you ruined the original series. Move on. Okay, let's just leave it where it is. Just, like, you're beating a dead horse at this point. So yeah, I think we just have to be okay over here in the West with one and dones, having a complete story and just leaving it there, because that's what makes it iconic and memorable. You know, like Sinners, it was like a phenomenon this year, right? It was so good. People went to go see that multiple times in the theater. And I do not want to see a prequel, a sequel. Just leave it where it is, because it's perfection. You know what I'm saying? And it seems like we can't do that anymore over here in the West. Like, we can't just leave things where they may. They can't just have a singular season of a show. Actually, they can. They just call it a limited series, like Wayward, which came out, you know, a couple of weeks ago. I watched it, and I did a video on it too, and I thought it was really good. And they classified that as a limited series, which I guess means there's one season and don't expect another one, which is fantastic. Because that's what they do in Asia, and they make great shows over there that are not disappointing in the end. You know what I mean? And yeah, I think the West, America, they have to take notes from Asia, because Asia's doing it right. And I think between the West and Asia, I think there are just different, you know, creative philosophies going on, right? So like the US market is very focused on thriving on like competition and abundance. That's why networks like put out hundreds of new shows like every year, but it's like an oversaturated market when you do that, of course. And so then audiences kind of get divided, because it's, you know, you can't watch all these shows that come out at once, and so you kind of pick just the one that you like the most, and it might not be the one that's the most popular for everybody else, and it's not going to capture enough attention, so then it gets canceled. And so then the studios kind of just start the process all over again to pick up pilots, you know, throw something at the wall to see what sticks, hoping for another Stranger Things or Breaking Bad phenomenon to happen, and it just doesn't often enough. Whereas in Asia, they seem to be more focused on the storytelling and the themes, the emotions to make a complete story arc. But I think the issue ultimately is the West, they want to build franchises, right? Whereas in Asia, they want to show a story. So yeah, that's all I have to ramble about, I think. Hopefully that makes sense. Especially with my comparison between, you know, Western shows and like Asian dramas and stuff. That's just something I've noticed throughout the years. And that is why I love Asian dramas, because they give me a complete story. And truly, I don't think I've ever really watched like an Asian drama that thoroughly disappointed me in the end, the way Game of Thrones did, the way Pretty Little Liars did, the way Vampire Diaries did. Like, all those shows disappointed me by the end, and I spent years of my life watching them, which feels like even more of a gut punch versus if I only spent, you know, a couple months watching a show versus years of my life watching a show and being a dedicated fan, and then it just punches you in the end. I will say, like, off the top of my head, the only Asian drama I can think of where I wasn't happy in the end, not because it was necessarily a bad ending, more just because that's not how I wanted the show to end for the characters, and that is the Taiwanese BL, Make Our Days Count. In hindsight, the title probably should have told me that it was not going to end happily ever after. But yeah, it was like a personal thing. Like, I didn't prefer that ending, but it's not that it ended terribly per se. However, almost every single Western drama I've ever watched has ended horribly. And I've been thoroughly disappointed in the end. Objectively bad, not just because I didn't like the ending, like, it's been objectively bad. Like Pretty Little Liars, Spencer has an evil British twin. Who thought that was a good idea? To be fair, I think Pretty Little Liars, it has 7 seasons, and I want to say maybe by season 4 they probably should have ended it. But yeah, that is my my rant about why I believe these shows are getting cancelled and how I feel we can fix that, which is through marketing and maybe following Asia's method of one and done shows. And I think that'll fix our problem of canceled shows. And it'll probably save the networks a lot of money too. So, like, hello, like, do that. I'm just a girl. I'm just a girl talking, okay? I don't work in productions. I don't know any of that. So there's maybe more complicated matters behind the scenes that I don't know about. This is just my opinion, and this is just what I've realized over the past several years. And I'm sure this is not even really a video essay, but there are people that do video essays, and maybe someone has done something like this, and they've probably done it better than me. Yeah. I don't think I have anything else to say, so bye!